the day I stopped being afraid. There's a moment, you know the one. You are standing in a room full of people. Someone asks you a question in English. Your heart jumps. Your mind goes blank. Your mouth opens. Nothing comes out, or something comes out, but it is wrong. It is broken. It sounds small, and you feel small. You look at the floor. You smile apologetically. You think, I am sorry. My English is not good. And the moment passes, and you breathe again. But something stays with you, something heavy, something quiet. It is called fear. And today, we are going to talk about the day you stop carrying it. I want you to listen carefully. I am not going to tell you that English is easy. I am not going to lie to you. Learning a language is hard work. It takes time. It takes patience. It takes courage. But I want to tell you something that nobody told me when I was learning. I want to tell you the truth. The fear you feel is not a sign that you cannot do it. The fear is a sign that it matters to you. And everything that matters feels scary at first. Everything worth having lives on the other side of fear. Every single thing. Let me tell you about a woman named Maria. Maria grew up in a small town in Mexico. She moved to Canada at the age of 32. She spoke almost no English. She worked in a factory. She smiled at her coworkers. She nodded when she did not understand. She laughed when they laughed, even when she had no idea why. Every day she came home tired. Not tired in her body, tired in her soul, because she could not say what she was thinking. She had a sharp mind. She had strong opinions. She had a wonderful sense of humor. But all of it was locked inside her, locked behind a language she had not yet learned. She felt invisible. She felt like a shadow of herself, and she was afraid. Every single day she was afraid. But Maria made one decision, just one. She decided that the fear would not win. She decided to speak anyway. Broken, imperfect, sometimes embarrassing English. She decided to speak it anyway. One morning, she walked into the break room at the factory. A coworker named Sandra was struggling with the coffee machine. Maria walked over. She said very slowly, "I help you," Sandra laughed. Not at Maria. With Maria. Sandra said, "Please, I can never figure this thing out." And Maria fixed the coffee machine. And they stood together drinking coffee. And Maria said 3 more sentences that morning. 3 small, imperfect sentences. And Sandra understood every single one. That was the beginning, not the end of fear. The beginning of something stronger than fear. You see, courage is not the absence of fear. Read that again. Courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is moving forward while fear is still there. Courage is opening your mouth when your voice is shaking. Courage is saying the wrong word and trying again. Courage is asking someone to repeat themselves, not once, not twice, but 3 times, and still staying in the conversation. That is courage. That is what learning looks like from the inside. I want you to think about a baby learning to walk. Watch a baby sometime. Really watch. The baby falls over and over. The baby falls on its bottom. The baby falls sideways. The baby grabs the furniture and wobbles. And then the baby lets go and takes 1 step and falls again. But nobody looks at that baby and says, "You know what? This child is just not a walker. Some people are not meant to walk. This one should just crawl forever. Nobody says that, because we all understand something about bobbies that we forget about ourselves. We understand that falling is part of learning. Falling is not failure. Falling is the process. You are that baby right now. I know you do not feel like a baby. You are a grown adult. You have a career. You have a family. You have responsibilities. You have dignity. And that is exactly why it feels so hard, because adults are not supposed to not know things. Adults are not supposed to struggle with simple sentences. Adults are not supposed to ask people to speak more slowly. It feels humiliating. I understand that feeling. I promise you I understand it completely. But here is what I also know. Every person you admire who speaks a second language beautifully was once exactly where you are now. Every single one of them. They did not skip this part. They lived through it, just like you are doing right now. Think about the Japanese word shokunin. It means a craftsman, someone who dedicates their life to mastering a skill. A sushi chef who trains for 10 years just to learn how to cook rice correctly. 10 years for rice. But nobody laughs at that chef. We call that chef a master. We call that dedication. We call it beautiful. Your English journey is the same thing. You are a craftsman of language. You are shaping something real, something useful, something that will open doors that are currently closed. And like the sushi chef, you have to cook a lot of imperfect rice before you cook the perfect bowl. Let me tell you about the moment I understood this. I was sitting in a café in London. I was 24 years old. I was there on a student visa. My English was functional but fragile. A man sat down next to me and started talking. He was cheerful and fast and British. He used expressions I had never heard. He said things like bit of a faff and couldn't be arsed. I had no idea what he meant. None. But I did not run away. I said, "I'm sorry. I'm still learning English. Can you say that more slowly?" And he did something I did not expect. His face lit up. He said, "Oh, brilliant. Where are you from? I love meeting people from other countries. Your accent is wonderful." And we talked for 40 minutes. And I learned 5 new expressions that afternoon, because I was not afraid to admit I was learning, because I refused to pretend. That refusal to pretend, that is powerful. So many learners waste so much energy pretending they understood when they did not, nodding along to conversations that made no sense, laughing at jokes they never heard, staying quiet so nobody notices their accent. All of that pretending takes energy, enormous amounts of energy, and it teaches you nothing. It protects you from embarrassment for one moment, and it costs you growth for a lifetime. Stop pretending. Start admitting. I am learning. I did not understand. Can you repeat that? These are not signs of weakness. These are the most powerful sentences a learner can say. Now I want to talk about your accent, because I know it bothers you. I know you hear yourself on a recording and you cringe. I know you think your accent makes you sound uneducated or unprofessional or less serious. I want to destroy that idea right now. Your accent is not a flaw. Your accent is your story. Your accent is the sound of your history. It is the sound of your mother tongue, your childhood, your culture, your identity. It is the sound of someone who is brave enough to speak in a language that is not their own. That is not something to be ashamed of. That is something to be proud of. Think about Sophia Loren. Think about Arnold Schwarzenegger. Think about Kate Blanchett in certain roles. Think about all the people who speak English with a foreign accent and command every room they enter. The accent does not diminish them. The confidence does. The clarity of thought does. The willingness to speak does. Your accent does not hold you back. Your fear of your accent does. There is a profound difference between those two things. One is real. One is a story you tell yourself. Let me tell you about Ibrahim. Ibrahim came from Nigeria to Germany to study engineering. He spoke English fluently. He also had to learn German, but the English in his German university was not his first challenge. His first challenge was his confidence in technical meetings. He was brilliant. His professors knew it. His classmates suspected it. But Ibrahim would sit in seminars and say nothing. He had thoughts, complex thoughts, important thoughts, but he was afraid they would come out wrong. He was afraid people would focus on his phrasing instead of his ideas. So he sat in silence. For 1 full year, he sat in silence. Then one day, a professor asked a question that nobody in the room could answer. Ibrahim knew the answer. He knew it with complete certainty. He sat there for 30 seconds. He felt the silence in the room. He felt the professor's eyes moving around, and something snapped inside him. He raised his hand. He spoke. His English was not perfect that day. He made 2 grammatical errors, but he answered the question completely and correctly. The professor stared at him, then said, "That is exactly right. Where have you been hiding all semester?" And Ibrahim laughed, and the whole room laughed with him. And from that day, Ibrahim stopped hiding. That is the moment I want for you. That moment when something snaps. When the thing you know, the thought you have, the idea in your mind, becomes more important than the fear of getting the words wrong. Because here is the truth about communication. People are not listening to your grammar. People are listening for your meaning. They want to know what you think. They want to know what you feel. They want to connect with you. Grammar is just the road. Your meaning is the destination. And even on a bumpy road, you can reach the destination. I want you to think about a telephone with a bad connection. You call someone and the line is crackling. The sound cuts in and out. Parts of the sentence get lost, but you still understand each other. You fill in the gaps. You use context. You figure it out together. That is what imperfect English is like. It has some static, but the signal still gets through. And the person on the other end is not hanging up. They are leaning in. They are trying to hear you. They want to understand you. Give them the chance. Now I have to talk about something that nobody wants to talk about. I have to talk about shame. Because shame is hiding underneath your fear. Shame is the thing that makes fear so heavy. You feel ashamed when you use the wrong tense. You feel ashamed when you cannot find the word. You feel ashamed when someone repeats your sentence back to you correctly without meaning to correct you. Shame sits on your chest like a stone, and it tells you that your mistakes mean something about your worth. Shame lies to you. Shame is the most dishonest emotion there is. Brené Brown, the researcher, spent years studying shame and vulnerability. She found something remarkable. She found that the people who connected most deeply with others were the ones who were willing to be imperfect in public. The ones who could say, "I don't know, and I got that wrong, and I'm still figuring this out." Those people were not weaker than the ones who pretended to be perfect. They were infinitely stronger because they had nothing to hide. And when you have nothing to hide, fear loses its grip on you. Your imperfect English gives you nothing to hide. You are a learner. Wear that word, own it. I am learning English. Say it like it is the most natural thing in the world, because it is. It is the most natural, honest, courageous thing you can do. You are adding a new language to your mind. You are rewiring the way you think. You are expanding the world you can access. That is not embarrassing. That is extraordinary. Let me tell you about the river and the rock. There is a river in southern France called the Ardèche. It flows through limestone gorges. The water is clear and cold and fast. And over thousands of years, that water has done something remarkable. It has carved enormous caves in the rock. Enormous. Some of these caves are 30 meters high. 30 meters of solid rock, shaped by water, not by explosions, not by machines, by water, by persistence, by the same water flowing in the same direction, day after day, year after year, century after century. Your daily practice of English is that water. Every conversation is a drop. Every new word is a drop. Every lesson, every podcast, every movie you watch, every song you sing along to. Every drop is carving the rock. You cannot always see the progress, but it is happening. Every single day, it is happening. I want to give you a practical truth now. A truth that will change how you feel about mistakes. Every mistake in English is information. Every single one. When you say, "I am go to the store," instead of "I am going to the store," your brain is actually working. It noticed something was wrong. It produced something and compared it to what it has heard before. And even when the output is incorrect, the process is valuable. The brain that makes mistakes is a brain that is learning. The brain that is afraid to make mistakes is a brain that stays still. You cannot afford to stay still. You have places to go. Think about Thomas Edison. When he was trying to invent the light bulb, he failed over 1,000 times. Someone asked him, "How does it feel to have failed so many times?" Edison said something that has been repeated ever since. He said he had not failed. He had found 1,000 ways that did not work. Every English mistake is Edison finding a way that does not work. And every time you find a way that does not work, you get closer to the way that does. Keep finding the wrong ways. Keep experimenting. Keep trying. The light bulb is coming. Now let me talk about the power of small moments, because I think we always imagine the big moment. The moment when our English is finally good enough. The moment when we walk into a job interview and impress everyone. The moment when we give a presentation and feel confident. The moment when we fall in love in English and find every word we need. We imagine that big moment, and we wait for it. But the big moment is built from small moments, and the small moments are happening right now. Every day, you are in a supermarket. The cashier asks you something unexpected. Instead of nodding and smiling, you ask them to repeat it. That is a small moment. You are on a call with a foreign client. You do not understand one phrase. Instead of guessing, you say, "I'm sorry, could you clarify that?" That is a small moment. You are watching a film in English. You hear a new expression. You pause. You write it down. You use it the next day. That is a small moment. The big moment of fluency is just a million small moments added together. And you are already collecting them. You have been collecting them. Even today. I want to talk about Yuki. Yuki is from Japan. She moved to Australia for university. Her English was academic, correct, but stiff. She could write beautiful essays, but casual conversation terrified her. Australian English, with its slang and its speed and its dropped consonants, felt like a completely different language. She heard people say arvo for afternoon, servo for petrol station, arvo at the servo. She thought they were joking. They were not joking. For the first 3 months, Yuki spent her evenings alone. She told herself she was studying, but really she was hiding. She was hiding from the risk of not understanding. Then her roommate, a girl from Brisbane named Haley, invited her to a barbecue. Yuki almost said no. Then she thought of something her mother always told her. Her mother used to say, "Yuki, the stone that does not move gathers no river water." She went to the barbecue. She did not understand half of what was said. She laughed at the wrong moments. She used formal English in informal situations. She called Haley's brother Sir by accident. Everyone laughed, including Yuki. And something shifted. She realized they were not laughing at her. They were laughing with her. At the accidental comedy of two cultures meeting in one backyard. She went to the next barbecue. And the next. By the end of that year, she was using Australian slang herself. Not perfectly, but genuinely. Because she had stepped outside the hiding place. You need to step outside your hiding place. Not all at once. I am not telling you to jump off a cliff. I am telling you to take one step. Just one step outside the comfortable zone. One conversation with a stranger. One phone call you have been avoiding. One sentence spoken out loud instead of typed in a message. One step. And then, when that step feels normal, take another one. Growth is not a leap. Growth is a series of uncomfortable steps that slowly become comfortable. Let me tell you something about comfort zones. The comfort zone is not comfortable. That is the great lie of the comfort zone. It feels safe, but safe is not the same as comfortable. Safe is just familiar, and familiarity can be a prison dressed as a home. The real comfort, the deep comfort, the kind that fills your chest with warmth and satisfaction, comes from achievement, from doing the hard thing, from having the difficult conversation and surviving it, from speaking imperfectly and being understood anyway. That feeling, the feeling after the risk, is the real comfort. And you can only get it by leaving the false comfort behind. Think about the trapeze artist in a circus. There's a moment in the act that is my favorite. It is not when they are flying through the air. It is not the catch. My favorite moment is the moment just before they let go of the first bar. That pause, that held breath, that moment where everything is possible and nothing is certain yet. That moment is where all the courage lies. And then they let go, and they fly. You are at that moment right now. You are holding the first bar, and I am here to tell you that the catcher is ready. The catcher is every person in the world who wants to understand you. The catcher is every English speaker who has ever tried to learn another language and knows how hard it is. The catcher is every teacher, every patient friend, every kind stranger. Let go of the bar. They are ready to catch you. I want to speak now about the English language itself, because sometimes the fear of English is really just a misunderstanding about English. People think English is one thing, one perfect, correct, unified thing, but it is not. English is 1,000 things. It is British English and American English and Australian English. It is Nigerian English and Indian English and Singaporean English. It is formal English and street English and academic English. It is the English of Shakespeare and the English of a text message. There is no single correct English. There is only communication. There is only meaning. And meaning can be made in many ways. When Indians say, "I am having a headache," they mean exactly what they say. When Nigerians say, "I'm coming while walking away from you," they mean, "I'll be right back." When Australians say, "No worries" 3 times in one conversation, they mean everything is genuinely fine. None of these are wrong. They are all English. The world is full of Englishes. And your English, the English you are building right now, with your accent and your particular grammar and your individual way of seeing the world, is one of them. Your English belongs to you. It is yours. Nobody can take it from you. Now I want to talk to you about the people who discourage you, because they exist. They are in your life. I know they are. They are the people who correct you in a way that humiliates you. The people who repeat your words back to you with a mocking accent. The people who roll their eyes when you ask for a moment to find your words. The people who finish your sentences for you before you have had a chance to speak. These people are not your teachers. They are not your guides. And their opinions of your English are not facts. They are just opinions from people who are, very often, afraid of something themselves. People who feel secure do not mock learners. People who are comfortable in their own skin do not make others feel small. When someone diminishes you for your English, understand this. You are doing something they cannot. You are speaking 2 languages. They are hiding behind one. Do not let those people build a wall in your mind. Do not let their voices become the voice in your head, because the voice in your head is the most powerful teacher you will ever have. If that voice says, "You cannot do this," you will believe it. If that voice says, "You are getting better every day," you will believe that too. You get to choose what that voice says. Right now, choose this. Say it inside your mind. Say it out loud if you can. I am getting better every day. Every conversation makes me stronger. I am not where I want to be yet, but I am so much further than where I started, and I am not stopping. Say it again. Mean it, because it is true. Let me tell you about the 2 kinds of learners. I have met thousands of language learners in my life, and they fall into 2 broad groups. The first group focuses on what they cannot do. They count their mistakes. They measure the distance between where they are and where they want to be. They feel the gap as a weight. They carry the weight everywhere. The second group focuses on what they just learned. They count their new words. They measure how far they have come from the beginning. They feel the progress as a fuel. They carry the fuel everywhere. Same journey. Two completely different experiences. And you can switch groups. At any moment, right now, you can switch. I'm asking you to switch, right now. Think about where you started. Maybe you started with the alphabet. Maybe you started not knowing how to say hello. Maybe you started with a textbook that was full of phrases nobody ever actually uses. And look where you are now. You are listening to or reading a 5,000-word speech in English. You are understanding it. Not every single word, perhaps, but the message. You are getting the message. That is not nothing. That is everything. That is years of work showing up right now. Be proud of that. Let yourself be proud. Now I want to talk about a concept that changed my life. It is called comprehensible input. A linguist named Stephen Krashen developed it. The idea is simple but profound. Language is acquired, not learned. You do not memorize your way to fluency. You absorb your way there. When you read things that are just a little harder than your current level, you are acquiring language. When you listen to stories you can almost understand, you are acquiring language. When you watch a film with subtitles and catch a new phrase, you are acquiring language. Your brain is doing this automatically. It is doing it right now. Every moment of English you experience, even imperfectly, even with gaps, is feeding your brain. Trust the process. Trust your brain. It is smarter than your fear tells you it is. Think about the way you learned your first language. You did not study it. You did not memorize verb tables as a baby. You were surrounded by it. You heard it thousands of times. You slowly started to understand before you could produce it. Then one day, words came out, imperfect at first, then more fluent, then effortless. That is the same process happening again. Slower, because your brain is older, and because you are not immersed every waking moment. But the same process. Trust it. Let me talk about something beautiful. Something that nobody mentions enough. There's a special kind of intelligence that only language learners have. It is the intelligence of translation, not just word-for-word translation, concept translation, cultural translation, the ability to stand between two worlds and understand both of them. When you are learning English, you are not just learning words. You are learning a way of seeing. You are learning how English speakers structure thought, how they approach problems, how they express emotion, how they use humor, how they argue, how they apologize. You are building a second mind, a second perspective, and that is an extraordinary kind of intelligence. Researchers call it cognitive flexibility, the ability to hold two frameworks at once, to switch between them, to understand the world from multiple angles. That is what you are building. With every lesson, with every conversation, with every stumbling, imperfect, beautiful attempt. I want to tell you one more story. And this one is about a man named Carlos. Carlos was 53 years old when he decided to learn English. People around him said he was too old. They said the brain cannot learn languages after a certain age. They said he was wasting his time. Carlos had retired from his job as an engineer in Argentina. His daughter had moved to England. He wanted to be able to speak with his grandchildren as they grew up. He wanted to read them stories. He wanted to understand their jokes. He wanted to be present in their lives, in their language. That was his reason. And that reason was stronger than every doubt. Carlos studied for 2 years. Not perfectly, not linearly. He had weeks of progress and weeks where nothing seemed to work. He made an English-speaking friend online who was learning Spanish. They practiced together every Tuesday. Sometimes they mixed the languages completely by accident, and they both ended up laughing until they cried. Carlos arrived in England for the first time 2 years after he began. His granddaughter, who was 4, ran to him at the airport. She jumped into his arms, and he said to her in English, clear and real and warm, "Hello, my darling. I am so happy to see you." She looked at him with enormous eyes and said, "Grandpa, you speak English." And Carlos, 53 years old, cried at Heathrow Airport in front of everyone. Not from embarrassment, from joy. From the specific, irreplaceable joy of crossing a bridge you built yourself. That bridge is waiting for you, and you are already building it. You have been building it since the first English word you ever learned. Every brick is a word. Every arch is a conversation. Every cable is a story you told. Every lamp along the bridge is a moment of real understanding between you and another human being. The bridge is not finished yet, but it is real. It is solid, and it is yours. Now I want to say something directly to the fear, because the fear is still there, maybe a little smaller now, maybe in a different corner of the room, but it is still there. I want to speak to it directly. Fear, you have protected this person. I understand that. You were trying to keep them safe. You did not want them to be laughed at. You did not want them to feel stupid. You thought staying quiet was the safest option, but you were wrong. The safest option was never silence. The safest option was courage, because silence grows into regret. And regret is the heaviest thing a person can carry. So fear, thank you for trying. But you are not needed here anymore. You can leave now. This person has something stronger than you. They have a reason. They have a goal. They have a story they want to tell. And they are going to tell it. So here is what I want you to do. Today, not next week, not when you feel ready, today. I want you to have one conversation in English that you would normally avoid. Maybe it is calling instead of emailing. Maybe it is speaking up in a meeting. Maybe it is talking to a stranger. Maybe it is telling someone in English about something that matters to you. I want you to do that. And when you feel the fear, which you will, I want you to think of Maria in the break room. Think of Ibrahim raising his hand. Think of Yuki at the barbecue. Think of Carlos at the airport. Think of all the people who were afraid and spoke anyway. And then I want you to open your mouth and speak. Your story is not finished. It is just beginning. The day you stop being afraid is not a day you wait for. It is a day you create. You create it with one word, spoken out loud, in the voice you actually have, in the English you actually know. You create it by refusing to be invisible. You create it by deciding that your ideas are worth hearing, even when the grammar is imperfect. You create it by choosing connection over self-protection. by choosing growth over comfort, by choosing the second language over the silence. You have already started. You started the day you decided that English mattered. You started the day you picked up your first textbook, or opened your first app, or watched your first English film and strained to understand. You started a long time ago, and everything you have done since then has been building toward this, toward the version of yourself that speaks without shaking, that listens without panic, that participates, that contributes, that connects. That version of you is not a dream. It is not a fantasy. It is not someone else. It is you, future you, not so distant future you. The you that is possible if you take the next step, and the step after that, and the step after that. The you that will one day look back at this exact moment and smile and say, I remember when I was afraid. I remember how heavy it was. I remember the day I decided it was not going to stop me anymore. That day is today. That day is right now. The speech you are going to give, the meeting where you are going to speak up, the friendship you are going to build, the opportunity you are going to take, the dream you are going to reach, that is all waiting. On the other side of fear, on the other side of one brave sentence, on the other side of the day you stopped being afraid. You are ready. You have always been ready. Go speak.